Hey there YouTube. Today I am going to be doing a video tutorial on how to use GPS modes on your Multiwii Pro flight controller board with the Multiwii software. So the first thing you'll need to have done is install the latest Multiwii 2.2 on your board. If you haven't done this, check back to one of my videos where I have a tutorial on it with the links for download. So once that's installed, you'll want to connect the board to your computer. Now once it's connected, it'll probably ask you to install the board, but if you use the same computer that you did to put Multiwii on, then that won't be a problem. So once connected, open up this graphical user interface. That will be in one of my previous tutorial videos links. So once this software is open, you'll need to connect to the board. Once you're connected, you'll go to RC control settings and be confronted with this. These are your flight control settings. So inside your flight control settings you have different modes that all achieve different things. So you've got arm, angle, horizon, barometer, magnetometer, head free, head adjust, cam stabilization, cam trigger, GPS home and GPS hold. Now you may be wondering what these things all do. So arming allows you to arm or disarm the copter using a switch rather than your control sticks. I would generally recommend this because it basically stops you from accidentally arming the copter through the sticks, and it's also more useful in that you can arm instantly, whereas with the sticks you have to hold the sticks for a couple of seconds for it to do it. Now angle, horizon and magnetometer are all generally functions you won't use. Horizon you'd use for aeroplanes because it keeps the aircraft level, but for other things like copters it's not generally used. Now head free is a function that uses your compass on the board. So when you've got the copter on the ground facing away from you and you turn on head free, it'll take that compass reading as a fix, and then as long as you yourself don't rotate, whenever you pull back on the stick, the copter will always come back to you. It doesn't matter which way the copter's facing, it will always fly back to you. So it's basically, imagine you've got a flying circle. It allows you to fly with that. Now head adjust is basically allowing you to change what the compass position is while you're in flight, but I wouldn't recommend using it really. So the next thing is camera stabilization, and this is just to turn off and on the gimbals on your copter or aeroplane that keep the camera stable while in flight. It's not a necessary thing to have if you are flying with a camera gimbal, because to be honest I don't see why you would want to turn it off. So the next thing you come to is camera trigger, and what this is you connect a servo that is in position with your camera's photo switch, and it'll basically emit a signal that tells the camera to take a photo from the servo pushing down on the photo switch. Now the important stuff: GPS home and GPS hold. GPS home makes your copter fly back to the point of takeoff using the GPS, and GPS hold makes your copter stay in the exact position it was when you turned on that function. Generally they work okay, but thing is GPS is only accurate to about 2 or 3 meters, so it won't be amazing. Anyway, how to enable them. So to enable GPS hold, the first thing you'll need to do is tick angle, horizon and magnetometer. Now you'll do this for both GPS home and GPS hold, as neither of those functions will work without these ticked. Now before we go more in depth, you need to understand that your controller has to have at least a 2-position switch, otherwise you'll have to use multiple switches. So if you have a 3-position switch, then literally copy what you see in this box, and this will give you the option between no options, GPS hold and GPS home. If you have the old on and off switches, then you'll need to have multiple of them to choose the different modes. So anyway, auxiliary 1 has a 3-position switch, so switch all the way off does absolutely nothing. You can see all the boxes are empty. Switch in the middle position turns on GPS hold, and that is angle, horizon, magnetometer and GPS hold all ticked, which you can see here. Now this is basically just turning that mode on. Now if you want to go into GPS home, you then have the 3rd position switch ticked with the same as GPS hold, except you also tick GPS home, and this gives you the ability to fly the copter, well, the copter's ability to fly back. Those are really all you need on this sort of board, because it hasn't got all the bells and whistles that the more expensive boards have. If you ever do upgrade, I would recommend going to the Ardu Mega 2.5. Much better board really, and it's not too much more expensive, but this board is pretty good. So that's an explanation of how you get the GPS working, because even though it'll say GPS is working in the map and it'll show your position, if you just tick GPS home and don't tick these, nothing will happen when you flip into that mode. Now, a lot of people don't seem to understand the idea of the switches and how they actually work. So with a controller, you'll usually have a 4-channel controller for an aeroplane, but with copters you need a 5-channel all the way up to an 8-channel. So what you would have is channel 1 is throttle, or well, not exactly. You'd have 4 channels do throttle, pitch, roll and yaw, and then the extra channels would be called auxiliary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or whatever. So if you've only got a 5-channel radio, usually auxiliary 1 is the spare switch, which will usually say gear on it on the radio. Now that's going to be a 2-position switch, which means you're going to only be able to choose between no modes and 1 mode. But if you're lucky enough to own a more advanced radio, you'll have multiple switches. So if you've got the basic radio with 1 switch, when it's off it'll do low, and when it's on it'll do high. So low must never have anything on, because if something goes wrong you want to be able to switch back to basic mode. And high, you can choose all the different functions, but you can only choose one at a time. So in this case it would be GPS home if you had high, because when high is switched, GPS home turns on. Now if you have multiple switches, you can do other stuff, but if you've got a 3-position switch like I do for low, medium, high, then you can choose 2 modes and off, and generally you're only going to need 2 modes unless you're going to have camera stabilization on and off, but that's not generally necessary. So the way these channels are connected to the board is the same as the receiver. There'll be 8 pins for you to plug the receiver into the board. Now the first 4 will be the controllers and the additionals will be the extras. Now you can just mix those up, and if you've got a nice radio you can assign the switches to the channels. So if you've got a more sort of like a Turner G from Hobby King, you can actually assign a rotating switch rather than a on-off switch, which means you can have lots and lots of different sort of positions. But with Multiwii you only need a 3-position switch, because it only supports three positions on each switch. So I hope that helped, and if there's any confusion just message me and I'll try my best to help. Thanks for watching.